But right now, it's the boss of this place. Hopefully he's been listening and he thinks I've been doing a good job. Actually, hopefully he hasn't been listening because he's on vacation. So he should be unwinding and unplugged. But you can follow him on Twitter at Nick C Radio, as you probably already know. Co-host of the Cattles and Ramie show. Nick, what's cracking?
Patiently waiting. How do I get my
Attaboy. I'll leave it here in the bullpen.
Come on, man. 50 and M, you know I got to know that. Come on.
Oh, man.
No doubt, Patience. That's a great song.
That's a great song and an unbelievable album. 50 Cent hit the ground running on that. But, Nick, you had to call in. How did you? I mean, I feel like if you're a Kings, I don't think there's any Kings fan out there that doesn't feel great about this trade. What were your initial thoughts when you saw it?
Loved it. I mean, I've been talking, and JJ behind the glass can attest to this. I've been talking about Kevin Huerter for the last few weeks, and I think he's a really good piece. Look, is this a guy that's going to make you an instant contender? Of course not, but that's not the focus here. I mean, he's somebody that can score at all three levels. He's not great defensively, but he's okay defensively. He's a playmaker with the basketball if you need him to be off the pick and roll. And most importantly, Zachariah, he's a shooter, man, and this is what that team needs. I mean, when we talk about the Kings and what they need to add shooting. And now when you have Huerter and you have Monk and you have Keegan Murray, you've now added three legitimate offensive players, three guys that can score, like I said, at each level, and three guys that will be able to shoot the basketball. So I think it's a great get by Monty, especially what they had to give up, which was pretty much nothing. I mean, Justin Holiday and look, Mo Harkless, he's a competitor and he plays tough defensively and all that, but he's Mo Harkless, let's be honest. And that first-round pick is protected, so I love the protections on the pick as well. So I thought it was a no-brainer for Monty.
Yeah, and what's funny, just looking at the depth chart right now, is there's so many different people that I feel like can start, and it's not one of those things where it's a bad thing. It's a good thing, because whoever doesn't start is going to come off the bench. How do you see him playing out like the rotation between Huerter and Monk and Barnes and Davis? I mean, Barnes has got to be a guaranteed starter, right? But between Huerter, Monk, Davis, how do you see those starting pieces fitting together?
Yeah, I mean, I think you insert Huerter immediately as your starting two guard. I think your starting backcourt is Fox and Huerter. Herter's a better defender, as I said, than Monk is. And, he's got better size. He's 6'7" or so. He can play the 2, he can play the 3. So I think you put him alongside Fox, and now you don't have to worry about your backcourt being so small, which was one of the things we talked about with the Malik Monk signing. I like the Malik Monk signing. I really do. But as I said yesterday on the show with Ramie, I would like it even more if he was your sixth-man microwavable offense off the bench. Mm. And, I guess Monty was kind of feeling the same way I was feeling. So you bring in Huerter. He's a better all-around player than Monk is. He's bigger than Monk is, so I think he's a nice fit in that backcourt. And now you've got Monk, who I think can come off the bench and be that sixth man and give you that offense, and he's got the chemistry with De'Aaron Fox. So I would imagine you're going to see Huerter start for this team, and Monk will be the second guy. Now, Mike Brown will not say that. I doubt it. They'll want to have a competition, quote-unquote. But I think you're starting five right now. If the season tipped off tonight, which I still don't know if there's going to be more moves, I wouldn't be shocked if there were more moves. I mean, you still have the Barnes money, you still have the Holmes money, you still have your future first-round picks aside from next year's because of this trade. But if you're starting tonight, I think it's Fox at the 1, it's Huerter at the 2, it's Barnes at the 3, it's Keegan Murray at the 4, and it's Domas at the 5.
Huh. Interesting. Yeah, no, I think you're probably right. I mean, Monk ended up starting a lot of the games last year because the Lakers were such a dumpster fire. But yeah, I mean, he does have more of the style of play of a guy that, if you're down, he comes and gives you some fire off the bench. So yeah, I agree with that. You're listening to Zachariah filling in for Cattles and Ramie right here on Sactown Sports 1140. If you want to text in, I want to read you a text here in a minute. 916-339-1140. I'm joined by the man of Cattles and Ramie, Nick Cattles right now. But I've got people on the text line, Nick, telling me, let's extend Monty. And I wouldn't be totally opposed to that. But what I want to ask you is, why did it take him a couple of years? He came from the Morey tree, which is all about shooting, as we know. Why do you think it took him a couple of years? Just not like the right fit, or didn't have like the right guy? Like, why did it take him a while to get shooting around Fox?
So there's different philosophies of management, right? So you see somebody like Danny Ainge who goes in and today down in Utah, he immediately pulls the trigger on a Rudy Gobert trade.
Yeah.
And he says,
"When's Mitchell going?"
Mitchell could be gone soon after, right? So, Ainge is not wasting time. He understands the mission. The mission is Gobert and Mitchell are not working together. They don't necessarily love each other, so I got to pull the trigger and make some moves. So, he's not worried about it. But when you come into a program, you can handle it either one of two ways. You can either kind of burn it to the ground right away, or you can kind of sit back and evaluate what you have, what pieces you've got, and you can sit back and say to yourself, okay, well, let me evaluate this team and let me watch this team night in and night out, and let me really figure out what we have. And let me, of course I know who De'Aaron Fox is when I take the job, and I know the basics of this team when I take the gig. But let me truly, find out what I've got here. The second thing, Zachariah, is let's not forget, man, it takes two to tango, as they say, and we don't know what Monty tried to pull off before this. We don't know if Monty's tried to bring shooting in and he couldn't come to an agreement with another team on a deal. And as I said, when Dante DiVincenzo was, just kind of let go and allowed to walk away, I know there were a lot of Kings fans, and they rightfully should feel this way because of the history, but there were a lot of Kings fans that were like, oh, here we go again. Dante's just walking. And as I said, let's see if the other shoe drops here, because you never know how things are going to get pieced together, and you don't know about the conversations. And now, it's 48 hours later, we're talking about Malik Monk and Kevin Huerter, which I think obviously answers the question of why Dante DiVincenzo is not on this team. So, there's got to be some patience, and you've got to make sure that you strike when it makes sense. And, when you look at the deals that Monty has made so far this offseason, John Hollinger, I tweeted this out earlier today, his board evaluation numbers for Malik said that he should be making around $16 million a year. They get in for a whole lot less than that. And then you look at this Huerter deal, and you don't give up much at all to bring in Kevin Huerter. So I think it's just making sure you got the assets, and when you have the assets, you've got to strike at the right time. It's not just about striking. It's about making the move at the right time. And I think Monty has done that now 2 times in a row with the 2 pieces he's brought in.
Now, I want to get to your Celtics. Anybody that follows you on Twitter at Nick C Radio knows that you're a diehard Celtics fan. So I want to ask you about the Malcom Brogdan trade. But before we get to that, what did you make of the Mike Brown hire between, getting a guy that you feel pretty safe with, that has a lot of experience and can establish a winning culture, and maybe he's learned a lot along the way in terms of having a head coaching job in Cleveland and in LA, kind of it not working in either place, but then being an assistant and being around the winning culture that is the Warriors, versus getting some upshot assistant coach that doesn't have the experience, so it's kind of a risk reward. How did you feel about the Mike Brown hire?
I mean, I liked it. I think out of the choices that they had, look, I was a Kenny Atkinson guy. Atkinson pulled himself out of the conversation. He did not want to come to Sacramento, so he eliminated himself. I thought Atkinson would have been a good hire. But when you look at the other guys that we were talking about, I thought Mike Brown was a fine hire. I mean, he's got experience with working with big name players, so he has experience with handling personalities and egos and managing them, and he has had to deal with LeBron and Kobe in his past. He's somebody who has experience. He's a defensive-minded guy, which, this team needs to be defensively better, which I think even with the Monk addition and, of course, the Huerter addition today, I still think there's a legitimate question about how good this defense can be, and Mike Brown will hopefully help that. So, I thought it really depends on what you're trying to do, right? What you're trying to accomplish. And with this team right now, I think it's rather obvious, whether Monty wants to tell us or not, that he had a mandate put on him. They want to win. And everybody in this city wants to win. I want to win. You want to win. We all want to win. And, bringing in a young guy and throwing him into that fire for the first time is always a question. You don't know how that guy is going to be and how he's going to perform. So, did they go with maybe a safer route? I would say yes, but I think the safer route in this instance makes a lot of sense given the circumstances that they're dealing with.
All right, let's get to your almost world champions. I know that hurt. I'm sorry about that, Nick.
You had to take a shot. You had to take a shot.
No. That wasn't. I was legitimately. Look, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't often say this on air. I'm not a Warriors fan, Nick. So, anyways, I was not taking a shot, I swear. But huge deal for your Celtics today because this guy is exactly what you were missing in the Warriors, championship finals series. So what did you make? Deal with the Pacers. You bring in Malcom Brogdan to the Celtics. And what does that mean in terms of the dynamics of Tatum, Smart, Brown, and now Brogdan?
Yeah, so I think the deal, it's pretty much a no-brainer to me as far as what they gave up. Brogdan makes a really good amount of money, $22+ million over the next 3 years. Mm-hmm. But he's a 19-5-5 guy when he's healthy. He's 6'5". He defends multiple positions. He's a playmaker, which is what this team really, really needed. He also is a good shooter. I mean, you go back a couple of years ago, he was one of those, 50, 40, 90 guys. So he can shoot the basketball as well, which is just crucial to this team right now. And when you look at, what happened in that series, Zachariah, I know some people will say it's an excuse. I say it's a reason. They ran out of gas. They asked a lot of Brown and Tatum and Horford throughout the year. Those guys played major minutes, especially Tatum. And, they asked Tatum to not only be the number one playmaker on this team, but the number one scorer. He also has to play defense every possession. He's got to play 40-plus minutes in the playoffs. And so, this will hopefully, for the Celtics, it will lighten the load on Tatum now that you have another playmaker. And you've got Marcus Smart, Derek White, and Brogdan, three guys who can make plays. And Brogdan is that, I picked the Warriors to win that series. I picked the Warriors in 7. And the reason why I picked them was because I kept going back to the word execution. And, watching the Celtics, they just would have these 2 to 3 4-minute stretches. And you saw that in the series, these 3 to 4 minute stretches where they looked like they forgot how to play offense. And so they needed somebody who was that steady veteran hand who will bring the ball up and say, everybody take a deep breath. Let's set up our offense. Let's run the play. And I think, when they get in one of those tough stretches, Brogdan is the guy that they will go to and say, all right, Malcolm, calm this down, run a play, and let's get something good. So it was a desperate need. And, now with the signing of Danilo Gallinari, this team is 10 deep now. It's not 6 or 7 deep. It's 10 deep. So I think Brad Stevens has done a really good job since he took over as GM of that team.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I like them as the favorites. But yeah, anyways, it's been a pleasure. Kind of weird interviewing the boss, you know what I mean? But I hope I pulled it off as best.
I'm going to tell you straight. I'm going to tell you straight. There was a good 10 minutes this morning, and JJ will absolutely believe this. There was a solid 10 minutes when I saw this Huerter trade that I looked at my wife and said, I'm going to go in today. I'm going to do this show. I'm going to do the show with Zachariah. This is going to be a thing. And Zachariah, she shot me a look, and I was like, well, maybe I'll just do a phone call.
Oh, you got one of those. I don't even need to say it out loud.
Yep.
Yeah, I got you. All right, well, it's Nick Cattles. You know him, program director, afternoon co-host of Cattles and Ramie. He's at Nick C Radio on Twitter. Nick, I'm glad you got it off your chest. I'm glad you didn't make your wife too unhappy, and enjoy the rest of your day off.
Well, look, this is just the beginning. I'm back on Wednesday. I'm going to have 1,000 takes on this. And I also, by the way, I want my T-shirt. So put it in the mail by the end of business.
I got you. I will. All right, Nick. Have a good one.
All right, brother.
There you go.
All right, see you.
Nick Cattles.